Okay, Mr. Akintobi, thank you so much for coming on the program. Let's get started with the Vanguard. How is it going?
Going well. It's Yuletide season. It's a time when we at least put our woes or our worries aside and revel in the euphoria of the moment. So compliments of the season to all Nigerians, and maybe a very merry, safe, peaceful, and joyous Yuletide season for everyone.
Fantastic. Let's get to the headlines from the dailies. Vanguard is where we starting off from. Why presidency raised 2026 budget to 58 trillion naira, works on details as Nigerians await breakdown. So usually when this budget is presented in the executive summary to the joint session of the National Assembly, we'll get to see better detail when the Ministry of Budget and National Planning and other ministries in charge and finance as well help us to understand the rationale behind this number. I think this is about $40 billion in our total spending limit for 2026. And the president has actually promised that no more multiplicity or overlaps as far as the budgets are concerned. What do you make of this?
There will always be overlaps for as long as our expenditure exceeds our revenue. That's the bottom line. But yeah, when you see the initial estimates that are provided, each MDA is supposed to present its own budget individually, which are then now consolidated into the master national budget. So remember, a budget is an estimate at the end of the day. It's not really finite in terms of the figures. So it will continue to change. Normally, the argument or the foo-for-all is about the National Assembly padding the budget because they are always adding constituency projects and things that were not captured when the executive put the budget together. But in this case now, it's the presidency that has raised the 2026 budget. And, well, first of all, there are issues. They are still part of the 2024 budget that are still being implemented. There's part of the 2025 that's going to be carried over to 2026. The president addressed all those issues in his budget speech, and he seemed pretty decisive and firm about the fact that multiplicity of budgets is a thing of the past and that there will be a very strong focus on implementation. Well, we can only hope. Talk is cheap, but he seemed resolute in the fact that they will be scrupulous in seeking to implement the numbers they have put together at this point in time. But look, at the end of the day, it all still depends on certain things that are beyond our control. Global price of oil, for example. I noticed one of the things he said was that they have lowered their assumptions, the optimism. So dollar exchange rate, they've reduced it. Price per barrel of oil, they've brought it down. How many barrels of oil we will pump, they've tried to be more realistic. But many of these things are not in direct control of the government. I mean, what impetus do we have on the global price of oil individually? Can we actually move that price on our own? We can't. So these assumptions are just a yardstick. They are not finite, and they are not by any means accurate or specific. They are just estimates. So that number will continue to change as market realities change. So for you to have raised it to 58 trillion, perhaps there are more assumptions that have been adjusted. Perhaps more MDAs have submitted their own individual budgets. But at the end of the day, let us take some hope and some succor from the president's speech. We haven't seen the details, the breakdown of the budget. I think we've seen sectoral, we've seen the total. And we've also seen sectoral allocations in terms of percentages. Of course, security took the bulk, which we expected and which has been the trend for the last couple of years. The quantum, the sum of money actually thrown at security has increased by quite a bit. And so we see that the president is serious about this fight against terrorism, banditry. He gave marching orders and said basically anybody who is involved in any sort of violence will be branded a terrorist and they'll be dealt with summarily. So I get a lot of pleasure from some of the titles given to some of these budgets. I don't know if you remember a governor of ours a couple of years ago who used to have these fantastic terminologies in terms of the titles of his budget. This one that the president has given us, well, we hope and wish that it comes to pass and has the effect You can give it all the fancy titles you want, but if it's not implemented, it can't bring prosperity. If it's not implemented fully, it can't bring prosperity, it can't bring peace, it can't bring improvement in the quality of life of the ordinary Nigerian. So implementation is key. It's one thing to put the figures together, it's another thing to find a way to fund it, which is why, of course, you see debt service is a very big part of the component of this new budget, because we've been borrowing in the past to make up the deficits. We have to pay that money back. So it's interesting. We'll get to see. I am going into 2026 optimistic. I'm highly optimistic about the economy. I'm highly optimistic about governance. I'm highly optimistic about the quality of life of Nigerians. I'm highly optimistic about insecurity, that many of the things that have bedeviled us in 2025 will begin to see improvement in the new year. So let's go into 2026 hopeful. As individual citizens, let's contribute our own quota in our own little spaces, the little bit that we can do to assist government. Government can't do it all. We have a role to play as individuals as well.
Well, Mr. Akitobe, what can we do without optimism? It is the very next thread to the next breath. And but you know, you're drawing our attention to the title of the budget reminds me of what the PDP used to describe the president's 2026 budget, something tantamount to renewed shaggy. And you know, there is an item called renewed resilience in the budget, as titled by Mr. President, Budget of Consolidation, Renewed Resilience, and Shared Prosperity. We just hope that that renewed resilience is not tantamount to more suffering, as the PDP has described it. But let's head to this Nigeria, and this Nigeria captures the experience of Nigerians currently as they begin to go home, travel home en masse to celebrate the Yuletide. Nigerians in Yuletide travel dilemma. Abuja to Lagos, eastbound road trips now almost 100,000 naira. Travelers trapped between costly flights, risky roads. FCCPC cracks down on unjustified fare hikes. And we did hear the FCCPC say over the weekend that indeed in this economy, increases may be legal, but it is charged with the responsibility of protecting Nigerians in terms of pricing. But Mr. Akitobe, one thing that is interesting is that a number of interstate buses and in fact local transport buses have transited to CNG, and even the e-hailing apps and cabs, as the case may be. But this has not amounted to reduction in the cost of transportation. Does this unsettle you as it does other Nigerians who inevitably have to travel?
Well, the CNG infrastructure is not fully fleshed out yet, so we can't begin to see economies of scale kick in yet, because the places where you can fill CNG into your vehicle, they're still far and few between, so the cost will be high, the logistical import as well as the movement to go and get it, and the fact that it's not readily around every corner makes it a bit complicated. But I think that part of the problem has to do with this insecurity issue that has made traveling by road very, very risky. Even the luxurious buses, the overnight buses, many of them now resort to engaging armed mobile police to accompany the vehicles. There's a cost attached to that that's going to be passed on to the traveler. Then, by the time you go from Lagos either to the southeast or from Lagos to Abuja, you can't begin. It boggles the mind to know how many checkpoints you will pass through. And at each of the checkpoints, from what we understand, there is some sort of an exchange between the driver and the security personnel to allow them easy passage or lack of delay, or their vehicles being stopped for unnecessary searches and things like that. So all these things add to the cost, add to the time. The time it takes you to travel also has a factor on your economic well-being. And then the airlines, of course, it's never been cheap per se to travel by air. But now the costs have skyrocketed as well, even though aviation fuel is available. So locally, because of the Dangote refinery. So it's the same thing about the CNG as well as it is about aviation. You would expect that now that we have the consumables available locally, prices should reduce. Those kind of things take time. Right. Even Dangote that announced a reduction last week and said $6.99 at the gantry and no more than $7.39 at the pump. Even the MRS stations that he supplied, they've not all yet adjusted to the new price, because they'll say they have old stock. They're not going to sell it at a loss. That's just so. Yeah, they won't want to sell it at a loss. So they will liquidate the old stock before they begin to bring in the new stock that they can sell at a reduced price. So it's unfortunate, but this Yuletide season, there's no escaping the fact that everything is going to cost an arm and a leg more. It's not just transportation, food in the market, Christmas shopping, gifts, electricity, fuel, all of the things that are going to make for a joyful Yuletide, we will have to pay a little bit more. But I think it's a short-term pain. As Bukola mentioned, Shege, if we're going through Shege now, we want to believe that Shege will continue to reduce as the days go by. So let's accept it as part of the sacrifices we have to make at this time, right, and that it is a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. We shouldn't have to compromise our Yuletide. This is the one festive season where, as Nigerians, we all come together, we share love, share harmony, we felicitate together, we party together, we put aside our woes for a minute. So we shouldn't allow economic challenges to inhibit the one time of the year when we forget about religion, forget about ethnicity. We are all brothers and sisters, and we all party together. So we will get through it, and whatever government's role needs to be played, okay, so give us more CNG terminals where more of the e-hailing and more of the luxury buses can fill up their tanks easier and more cost effectively. Likewise, aviation. If you're getting aviation fuel from Dangote refinery, we would assume that the cost will be less because there's no transportation involved from importing it from overseas. So, but you got to understand that the airlines and the luxurious bus companies, they are businesses. They borrowed money, they invested money, they're looking at their bottom line. They have to turn a profit to be able to pay back their loans, satisfy their shareholders. Indeed. If the cost of doing business does not enable them to turn a profit, they will close down, and Nigerians will be all the worse for it. So let's not too much demonize the business people. Let's not demonize them, because it's not always their fault. Mr. Not all of them are totally all about profiteering.
There's another business ongoing with the debt of December, with those returning home saying, what exactly is going on with the prices? An apartment that used to cost maybe 350, 400,000 to stay, they're saying 1 million, 1 point something. And I'm thinking, okay, you don't want us to return with any money in our pocket, but let's go over to the Abuja Inquirer this month. That's the Inquirer leading with the release of the 130 Niger pupils and teachers. But you see the explainers under says no word on Kogi churchgoers. And we also reiterated that earlier on the program, the ECWA members, both old and young, who were kidnapped. That very sad video emerged over the weekend showing them begging for their lives. It was very traumatic to watch. And did you imagine what they are going through? Those who are right there in the kidnappers' den, the Cherubim and Seraphim Church as well. So as much as we celebrate this win, there are also other ongoing operations that we must bring closure to. There's also the other one, security fears deepen at Yuletide. DHQ deploys special forces air support against attacks. So it's sort of a mixed bag, Mr. Akintobi. And we've also always said this, that while we speak about the release, we're always silent about the terrorists themselves. What happened? Did they slip off and we just rescued those abducted, or did they disappear? Were they arrested? Were they neutralized? Do you think this is maybe part of a strategy, or just clear not being forthright?
There's one you didn't mention. I don't know if you're being diplomatic here. You didn't talk about was ransom paid. You didn't mention that.
There you go. That's number one on the list. Skipped my mind.
Exactly.
I think it's the elephant in the room.
Yes, but you see, there's two sides to the equation. While we are celebrating the release and we're happy it's the best Christmas gift we could ask for, there's a second half of the equation which has to do with responsibility, which has to do with prosecution, interdiction, conviction, punishment. I continue to say that there is no deterrent factor in just getting kidnapped victims back. It doesn't discourage the practice. Yes, while we're happy that our people have been released and they are back home, we haven't done anything to discourage this kind of things from happening again in the future. So questions still need to be asked, and we are unhappy about the fact that the CNC people in Kogi are still in captivity. But it's not just them, there are other people. While we celebrate some gains, for example, the 130 Niger pupils and teachers, there are still others that we must not forget that are still in captivity up to tomorrow. Going back several years, I mean, Leah Sharibu, for example, many, we can go back and talk about that are still in captivity that we still need to continue to strive to get their release. And one of the ways to do that, I would say, is well, they say you don't negotiate with terrorists. I heard Sheikh Gumi a few days ago saying we fought this war in a kinetic fashion for the last 15 years and we've not won it. So we should begin to start looking at other methods. He's advocating negotiation with the bandits. I've never known anywhere where negotiation with a blackmailer, a terrorist, or whatever has ever worked. I have always been of the school of thought that the only way you arrest this thing is to take a no-nonsense approach from a security standpoint to going guns blazing, I guess you would say. But look, we must never forget the fact that we are in a war situation against this terrorism, and Nigerians are the collateral damage. It's come to the point now where the terrorists are even using their kidnapped victims as human shields. This part of the challenges the military faces when you say, why don't you just go and bomb Sambisa Forest? Yeah, so they stay up there and they drop bombs. How about the innocent victims that are being held by the terrorists? What's going to happen to them if you carpet bomb Sambisa Forest? So these are some of the things that the military has to grapple with. It's not a straightforward face me, I face you, shoot me, I shoot you, mano a mano war like conventional warfare used to be. This is a different type of warfare that will be won through intelligence, technology, information sharing, and you know, it's a digital war we're in now. It's no longer the conventional way we used to fight battles. So it requires a different type of strategy completely. Look, at this time of the year, we are worrying about insecurity. There are people who have refused to come home from the diaspora just because they worry about being kidnapped. That has an effect on our economy because the money they will bring to spend is not coming. Likewise, there are people who won't go to the village, who are based in the cities, who won't go to the village because of fear of security. That also has an effect on the local economy. So we want to continue to encourage our military. Like I said in the last time I was on, the president has taken some bold steps recently, including the appointment of the new Minister of Defense, reshuffling the service chiefs. He's made a deal with Italy for some aircraft, for some fighter jets. There are steps that are being taken. Plus, if you listen to his speech at the budget presentation, you know that he himself, his back is against the wall. He's had enough, and he doesn't want this to continue, and he will do whatever it takes to get it to stop.
Secondly, well said. Thank you so much for always bringing your expertise to bear whenever we bring you on to analyze the front pages of the Daily. We hope, as you said, these killings will stop and these mass abductions will never happen again. But I must thank you, Mr. Dayakintobi, for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
My pleasure always. Merry Christmas, Nigeria.
And we understand that somewhere around Kara Bridge, outbound Lagos, there is a body there that has been there for some days now. We understand since Friday. I want to call on the attention of the government. We don't know what is behind what happened to the person, but there's a body that has been laying lifeless on Kara Bridge, outbound Lagos. So the authorities, whether it's Ogun State or Lagos State government, please let's see what we can do to take out that body before it decomposes even further, and for environmental reasons, and so that people are not traumatized. But let's reiterate, outbound Lagos, Ankara Bridge, there's a body that has been lying lifeless since Friday. This is calling on the attention of the government to do something as quickly as possible. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about tax. Taiwo Oyedele, the chairman of that committee, fiscal reform and tax reforms, will be joining us in just a moment. Stay with us.